Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name's Matthew Carter, and for a long time I thought I had life mostly figured out. I built a business from scratch, married the woman I loved, and had a future I believed in. But looking back now, I realize I missed a lot of signs, especially the ones that mattered most. I met Amy when I was 29. She worked in event marketing, always busy, always sharp. I ran a small freight logistics company, nothing flashy, just reliable work. We met at a networking mixer, of all places. I wasn't even planning to go, but she came up to me, confident and funny, like she already knew I'd say yes to dinner. And I did. We clicked fast. Within months, we were inseparable. Amy had this way of making you feel like the world was moving in your direction. She asked about my goals, stayed up late helping me rework pitch decks, and even came to a few meetings when I needed backup. It felt like a team. The first time I brought her home to meet my mom, Eleanor, the vibe shifted. My mom was polite, even kind. She asked Amy about her job, her family, and her interests. But when Amy left that night, she didn't say much, just poured herself tea and sat in silence. Eventually, she said, "She's very charming." "Yeah," I smiled. "And smart." "She is," my mom nodded. Then, after a pause, she added, "Just make sure you're looking past the charm." What does that mean? It means some people love the spotlight more than they love the work. You've always been the work, Matthew. I brushed it off. I told myself she was just being protective. She raised me after my dad died when I was 10. She worried, sure, but she never interfered. Still, her words stayed with me longer than I expected. Amy and I got married 2 years later. Simple ceremony, no drama, at least not yet. 3 years into the marriage, the business took a hit. One of our drivers caused a warehouse accident that delayed a major retail shipment. The client pulled their contract, our second biggest. At the same time, fuel prices spiked, and a couple of long-term deals expired. Everything that could go wrong started going wrong. I was working 12 to 14 hours a day just to keep things from slipping further. Meanwhile, Amy was starting to lose patience. Fast. At first, she asked questions like, "So, what's your plan now?" Later, it turned into, "Why don't you just go get a real job?" I didn't blame her for being frustrated. I was frustrated too. But instead of standing beside me, she acted like I had dragged her into a mess she never signed up for. Every late night home turned into a quiet dinner, or worse, none at all. One night, I walked in past 10 p.m., exhausted, and saw her on the couch scrolling through her phone. "I grabbed some takeout," I said, placing the bags on the table. She didn't even look up. "You're late again." "Client call ran over," I replied. "They might be coming back." "Or they might not," she said flatly. "You ever think maybe this just isn't working?" I sat down, unwrapped the food. "The business hit a rough patch. That doesn't mean it's over." Amy stared at me like I'd said something naive. "It's been 6 months of excuses, Matthew. It's been 6 months of me trying not to let it all fall apart." She didn't respond, just stood up, grabbed her plate, and disappeared into the bedroom. That's how it went most nights. She stopped asking how things were going. I stopped volunteering. We became two people living parallel lives, under the same roof, with nothing left in the middle. I kept thinking it was temporary, that once the business stabilized, the marriage would too. But the longer it went on, the more I realized I might have already lost her. The business was still on life support when I got the call from St. Luke's Hospital. My mother had collapsed at home. Stroke. By the time I got there, she was conscious but slurring her speech. The doctor said it was mild, but she needed full-time care until they could run more tests. Amy visited once, briefly. She stood in the corner of the room, arms folded, scrolling through her phone between small talk. "She looks better than I expected," she whispered on the way out. "She's still in danger, Amy." "I know, hospitals stress me out." That was her only visit that week. I didn't press her. I had enough on my plate. I moved meetings, slept on the hospital couch some nights, brought her books, and sat with her through rehab. She was improving, but something in her eyes told me there was more she wasn't saying. One afternoon, when I brought her some soup, she reached over and grabbed my hand. "I'm tired, Matthew." "You'll bounce back. You always do." "This one's different." I didn't argue. 3 weeks later, she passed away in her sleep. Peaceful, the nurse said. The funeral was private. Just a few old friends, neighbors, and me. Amy came. Left early. After the burial, I stayed behind alone. Just me and the stone. No prayers, no speeches. Just silence. That evening, I got a call from Grace Holloway, my mother's estate lawyer. She asked me to come in the next day, said there was something Eleanor left for me. I expected paperwork, maybe a will. What I didn't expect was the envelope. Grace handed it to me across her desk, heavy, sealed, and marked in my mother's handwriting. Inside were two things: a letter and a document that would change everything. The letter was only one page. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I know how you think, Matthew. You'll try to do everything alone. But you don't have to anymore. I've set things up to give you room to breathe, just not to be used by someone who never deserved you. Trust me, you'll understand soon enough. Mom. Grace slid the second document across the desk. Your mother didn't leave you a traditional will. She put everything into a protective trust. I blinked. A trust? Like for kids? Not exactly, Grace said. Think of it as a fortress. The assets are all inside. You're the sole beneficiary, but there are conditions. What kind of conditions? She set a 2-year waiting period before you can access the full amount. In the meantime, partial disbursements are available for business or health reasons. Nothing personal. I nodded slowly. Why the delay? Grace took a breath. Because of a clause. If you file for divorce, or your spouse does, during those 2 years, she's automatically disqualified from touching any of it. Permanently. I sat there, quiet, processing. Grace added, It's airtight. She worked with a specialist. Your mom wanted to make sure that the money didn't go to someone who didn't earn it. Her words. There it was. My mother hadn't just given me her fortune. She'd left me armor. She saw something I hadn't. I walked out of that office with the trust paperwork and the letter, my mind racing. I didn't tell Amy the details, just said, Mom left me everything. It's going through legal stuff right now. She barely looked up from her laptop. That makes sense. Your mom was organized. That was it. No curiosity, no emotion, just a flicker of something behind her eyes. Interest, calculation, maybe both. 2 weeks passed. Then, out of nowhere, a man showed up at my office with an envelope. You are Matthew Carter? Yes. You've been served. I opened the envelope at my desk, still halfway through my morning coffee. Divorce papers, filed by Amy Carter. Grounds, irreconcilable differences. I sat there, staring at the header. No warning, no conversation, just this. That night, I walked into the house and found her in the kitchen, pouring a glass of wine like it was any other Thursday. You filed, I said. She didn't look surprised. I did? Without a word? Amy took a sip, leaned against the counter. We both know we've been done for a while, Matthew. I just made it official. You waited 2 weeks after Mom's funeral. You didn't even pretend to wait longer. She shrugged. Timing sucks. I get that. But we've been living like strangers. Let's not fake it now. I studied her face. It wasn't anger. It was detachment, like she was already out the door, mentally packed and on to the next chapter. You think you're walking away with half of it? I said quietly. She raised an eyebrow. Half of what? You know what. Amy smiled, just slightly. Matthew, we're married. Everything you gain during the marriage is community property. Future assets count. There it was, no more pretending. The jackpot she thought she hit. She turned and walked off, leaving her wine glass half full on the counter. My lawyer, Robert Lane, called me the next day after reviewing the filing. He told me they were demanding half of the projected trust value. A bold move, considering what they didn't know. Amy clearly thought she was entitled to it. What she didn't realize was that the trust was fully protected, locked down in ways her lawyer hadn't anticipated. She was about to find out exactly how wrong she was. We scheduled mediation. I kept my tone civil in every email. No fights, no grand declarations, just the same steady posture I'd learned from years of damage control in business. Amy thought she had leverage. She thought she'd played it right. But what she didn't know, and what she was about to learn in a very public way, was that she filed too soon, and against the wrong man. The mediation room was quiet. Cold walls, stale coffee, and 3 lawyers who had all seen too many of these. Amy sat across from me in a navy blue blazer, looking sharp, confident, like someone stepping into a payday. Her lawyer, Gordon Price, spoke first. Given the marital timeline and the projected value of the inheritance, our position is that Amy is entitled to 50% of all community and future assets, including anticipated disbursements from the trust. He looked at me like this was just a procedure, like the numbers were already theirs. My lawyer, Robert, didn't flinch. He opened a folder, slid a copy of the trust document across the table, and said, "Let's walk through this first." Gordon glanced down. Amy kept her eyes on me. "The trust was structured before Mr. Carter received any funds," Robert said. "It's private property, never commingled, and protected by an inflexible clause. The money is locked for 2 years, and any divorce action initiated during that period permanently disqualifies a spouse from access. Retroactively. It's ironclad." Gordon skimmed the pages. His face started to tense. "This clause is enforceable?" he asked. Robert tapped the notarization and said calmly, "Drafted by a specialist. Verified. Already tested in court twice." Amy's expression shifted. Her lips parted slightly, then tightened. She leaned over to Gordon, whispering something. He whispered back. She grabbed the papers and read them herself, flipping faster now. Then silence. Gordon finally leaned back, cleared his throat, and said, "We may need to reconsider our claim structure." No apology, no acknowledgement, just the slow collapse of a plan that was never airtight to begin with. Amy didn't say a word. She just sat there, eyes glassy, staring at the page. She thought she'd timed it perfectly. She thought I'd walk away, bitter and cornered, and hand her a slice of something she never built. But she filed too early. And my mother had seen this coming long before I did. Amy stood up before the meeting ended. "This isn't over," she muttered, not looking at anyone. But it was. She just hadn't accepted it yet. The divorce was finalized 6 months later, quietly, without drama in court because there was nothing left for her to fight for. Amy walked away with what little remained of our marital assets, some equity in the house, a shared savings account that had barely anything in it, and her car. Most of her share went straight to her legal fees. She didn't say a word the day we signed the papers, just showed up, signed, and left. No goodbye, no closure. 3 months passed. Then one night, around 11 p.m., I got a message, just a block of text. "I know you hate me. I know I made mistakes, but I'm not okay. Everything's falling apart. I didn't expect this. I'm behind on rent. I lost 2 clients. I don't know who else to ask. Please, just help me get back on my feet." I stared at the screen for a while. She hadn't checked in after the funeral, didn't support me when I buried my mother, filed for divorce 2 weeks after I inherited the estate, and thought she'd walk away with half. Now she wanted a bailout. I typed, paused, then erased. Typed again, short, simple, final. "I'm sorry you're struggling, Amy, but I can't help you. Take care of yourself." I hit send, blocked the number. I didn't feel good about it, but I felt clear. Because what people do when they think they're winning, that's who they really are. And what they do when they realize the game's over, that's just the echo. A few weeks after I sent that final message, I visited my mother's grave. It was a clear afternoon, no wind, no noise. I brought fresh lilies, her favorite, and stood there for a while, just listening to the quiet. She hadn't left me money. She'd left me a margin, a safety net not just from financial ruin, but from emotional sabotage. She'd seen through Amy when I was too deep in it to notice. That clause, the one that seemed overprotective at first, turned out to be the exact tool I needed when everything cracked. Amy had thought she'd won, thought she had perfect timing. She saw the word inheritance and assumed the finish line was near. But the thing about timing is, if you get it wrong, you don't just lose. You lose loudly. She filed for divorce right after I inherited my mom's fortune, thinking she hit the jackpot. She didn't realize she was walking straight into a wall my mother built years ago. I walked away from that marriage with more than money. I walked away with a lesson burned deep into me. Pay attention to who claps when you're winning, but watch even closer when you're not. Amy was there when it was good. When it got hard, she vanished. And when she saw a payday, she went for the kill. She played the wrong hand. I just let her play it out. That was the last time I ever saw her, and I never looked back. Thank you for watching.